Cooper off the field. We'll see. Let's bring BLG in. 10 practices in, everybody. Walk through today, walk through Friday, back on the practice field tomorrow, and then game Saturday evening in Baltimore, 7 p.m. for the first preseason game. Let's bring BLG in now. You can follow him at Brandon Gowton. Read all his work at bleedinggreennation.com. BLG, welcome to the program this Wednesday morning. How are you doing this morning, my friend?
I mean, I'm doing great because Darius Cooper is thriving.
Yeah, he is thriving. And I said coming off the practice where he caught 7, 8 balls, whatever it was. It was so many I couldn't keep up. And they're impactful plays and against corners like Reek Woolen. And he's beaten Reek pretty badly. And then the next day starts and we're in the same thing. Again, they start backed up. And by the way, that was Darius Cooper's role last year, the dirty work guy after Johnny Wilson got hurt. So he was a good blocker. And they're trying to run the ball off the goal line. And it's Dontavian Wicks, who is going to be out there. He's played well. But Hollywood Brown. And then when they go to 11, it's Elijah Moore's not, probably not a great blocker considering his size limitations. And he didn't get a ton of first team reps like I think he should have with the situation with Mekhi out and Devontae out. Why isn't he getting the first team reps, the majority of first team reps? Well, we lost. There we go.
You got me?
Yeah,
I
got
think
you.
he's just a very well-rounded player. I don't see big holes in his game. Okay, he's not the tallest receiver. I don't think that's a major issue, and I also think he plays bigger than his size. He just, very simply, like, good things happen for the offense when Darius Cooper is targeted. He gets open. He's reliable. He should be a top 3 receiver on this offense, at least early in the season, with how well he's played.
Yeah, and it's strange. I mean, you and I were talking on the sideline, and I think part of it is, obviously the level of competition hurt him at Tarleton State, but you and I were discussing my theory that he made so many plays. Like, I think there's something to that. Like, you make plays, you're used to making plays. There's something about you. And he's reached that NFL baseline level. You have to be a certain level of athlete, which he clearly is. And I think that helps him. He just knows how to make plays. And I get it because for all the talk of the NFL being a meritocracy, it really isn't. You trade for Wicks and you give him an extension and he's going to be a part of it. And that's just the way it works. You take a first round pick on Mekhi, he's going to get opportunity after opportunity. But yeah, it's frustrating when you see this guy's better. And then Hollywood Brown, especially, okay, $5 million. All right. That's pretty significant. You don't want him, but he's better. Darius Cooper's better. Let's get the best players on the field. I get why fans would be frustrated by that.
And I don't think Hollywood has had like a terrible training camp, but
I would call it nondescript, though.
I think that's fair. And I think most disappointing about his training camp to me would be the fact that I feel like you're bringing him in for at least in part to be a vertical threat. And we haven't seen that at all, I feel like. That's just not an aspect of his game that at least I've noticed in training camp. And when you look at his yards per reception numbers, they kind of tell a similar story. For a guy who's supposed to be, a vertical burner,
yeah,
you're just not seeing that level of production. And that's kind of what I wanted to see a little bit out of him, especially to justify, like his playing time and having a role on this team. He's had some okay catches, underneath, but to me, that's nothing Darius Cooper or a lot of these other receivers can't do. You mentioned Elijah Moore as well. Like, I think he's outshined Hollywood. Now, they gave Hollywood Brown $5 million. I think $3 million of that was a signing bonus. $2 million is guaranteed salary. And so maybe you could trade him to get off of that before you're paying out that salary. But, I mean, I don't even know what his value would be.
What's your concern on Mekhi Lemon at this point, BLG?
It's a big concern. And I know people will talk about how, Cooper DeJean missed time as a rookie in training camp. It's just not an apples to apples comparison to me here. I mean, as I pointed out to John yesterday, Cooper DeJean also fully participated in OTAs. Like, he had a full spring program that year as a rookie, where Lemon did not. He missed at least 4 of their 8 practices. He's clearly missed a lot of time here in training camp, and I would say that, you know, there's a difference between playing slot corner and also like building a chemistry with your quarterback. And Jalen and Mekhi have not had a big chance to do that. You know, maybe Lemon returns here soon, and he gets back on the field, and he looks really good, starts to crush it. Like, that's possible, but I mean, right now, from what I'm seeing, I just don't even know what to make of him if he's not going to be out there. He's missed a lot of time, and you add in that all these other receivers are kind of making plays. Like, that just puts him in a tough spot, I think, to begin the season.
10 practices in, I think, and I'm going to try to ask Nick this tomorrow, probably off camera because he won't say it on camera. I think it is completely installed. I think yesterday was the last day of the installation. You saw a ton of pistol, a run heavy sort of practice. I think that's it. So now that you've seen pretty much the entire offense, where are you with just what they're trying to do?
I'd say I'm encouraged. Part of it being the on-field results. I don't think it's been even always. Like, there's been uneven moments. Certainly days where defense is dominating, or at least very clearly winning the day. I don't think this is going to be an elite offense, but I do think there are encouraging signs to feel good about it. And it might not be something, too, where the progress is linear. Like, there could be ups and downs through the course of the season with this offense from what we're seeing, not just because of what they're doing schematically, but just, you know, the talent considerations as well. But I mean, I where I'm standing at now, where I entered training camp, like, I feel better about the offense, relatively speaking.
Going to be interesting to see. BLJ, Eli Stowers is the other guy, rookie player, not done much in camp. What have you seen from 10 days in? Anything different than what I'm hearing from McMullen? You tell me.
I haven't seen a lot. I mean, at least I'll give him that, like, he's made some short catches in the flat over these past couple practices or so. I'd rather see him do something than literally nothing at all, which is kind of where he was at in spring practices and earlier in training camp. So there is that. But, like, I kind of just struggle to really even think he might be active, at least early in the season here, considering that Dallas Goedert, Johnny Mutt clearly ahead of him on the depth chart, and not just because the Eagles issued that, their unofficial depth chart, which does reflect that, but based on what we've seen, obviously, in practice.
Yeah.
And then I don't know that he's giving you special teams value. Certainly not over someone like Cam Latu or EJ Jenkins, whoever you want to pick there. So, you know, I think it's a slow burn for Stowers, and I think that's, like, kind of okay in the bigger picture. It's possible he gets some time, you know, really develops here, but at the same time, it's not like ideal that you get a second-round pick and the guy, you know, wouldn't even be active on game day, at least to start out. So, especially when you need help at tight end. I don't think they're, like, just stacked at tight end. So, I think Stowers, it's kind of been, I'm just really kind of struggling to see kind of like the upside here so far. He, even just physique-wise, he doesn't really, like, stand out in the way that some of your typical, like, just big tight end catches your eye, like someone like Dallas Goedert, or a lot of, even like EJ Jenkins, who I mentioned.
Like EJ. Yeah, like I was going to say EJ.
Yeah.
If EJ could catch the ball consistently, they might have something, because he can block. He's really taken to the blocking aspect of it, but he's just not, you can't trust him when it comes to catching the football, which is a big part of it, obviously. Yeah, but I've always thought he was more of a slow burn, but you know, everybody wants everything right away in this society. I think he'll be fine long term, but I mean, he's the classic got to spend a year in the weight room, getting an NFL strength program. Everybody says he's willing to block, and that's half the battle. And the athleticism will show up, I think, as a receiver at some point. But it might not be till 2027. And I think that's fine, personally.
I would say I don't need him to look like, you know, Travis Kelce or something right away, but give me, like, a little bit of, oh, there's that one rep that, you know, really, like, showed something. I feel like we haven't seen a whole ton of, like, that, like, the very best.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. You would expect that, the stretch the seam. But that'll take me in my next question. I have not been thrilled with the backup quarterback situation, and that's who he's mostly playing with. I think Tanner's had a really poor camp. And I'm not sure part of that is the way they've handled this. I don't understand going back to the spring. We were all kind of like Andy's getting all the second team round, and they say they're rotating, but every time we were there, they weren't rotating. And now they are rotating, but seems to be more Andy than Tanner. I don't know. He seems like he regressed, and I think part of it is because of the way they've handled this. And I don't understand it. Can you make heads or tails of their thought process?
I mean, there are times, I think, at his best where Andy Dalton really looks like he knows what he's doing in this offense. And he's throwing with timing. So you feel good about that, like a veteran quarterback who kind of understands what's happening. By contrast, I think Tanner McKee's been a little guilty of not really knowing or not being good with timing and kind of holding on to the ball a little bit longer than you would like.
A lot holding on to the ball.
Which is weird because I feel like he's in the past, we've seen him at times be good at just getting it out, throwing with anticipation, certainly at his best. So I've been surprised by that. I would say that Dalton certainly jumped out to the lead over McKee in training camp earlier on. I think McKee's had a couple practices that have been his better practices more recently, and I don't know if Dalton didn't have his best day certainly 2 days ago where he was really off. I think on everything and the timing seemed to be totally off. So to me, it's these preseason games I think could tell us a lot. I think there will be more separation in those, and then maybe the joint training camp practice next week too.